Across the swirling waters, Tiamat roared. Marduk, with a net in one hand and a storm in the other, stood firm. Chaos will not reign, he declared, as his blade struck true. From the shattered remains of the dragon, the heavens rose, and the earth took shape. From the depths of noon, a mound emerged, and atop it stood Atum, alone but complete. With a breath, he brought life into the air. With a tear, he shaped the waters. From these first beings, the cycles began, eternal and unbroken. Pangu stretched his arms, separating the heavens and the earth. For millennia he stood, the weight of creation upon him. At last he fell, and from his body came mountains, rivers, forests, the winds whispered. The cosmos was complete, harmonious and whole. Chaos gave birth to Gaia, the earth. In Uranus, the sky, their union brought forth titans. From their strife emerged the new order. Zeus, with lightning in hand, proclaimed, "Let justice reign and chaos subdue." From the storm, Olympus rose, a testament to balance regained. Birth of the cosmos. A swirling void of chaos stretched endlessly, filled with primordial forces struggling to shape the universe. Figures from various ancient antiquities, their creation myths emerged, their voice echoing across time and space, the stage dimly lit, with shadows flickering like chaos they represent. Before time began, there was only chaos, a formless abyss, darkness, silence. From the depth of this void, the seeds of creation stir. Tiamat, roaring, I am the chaos of the deep, the mother of all. My waters swirl, my breath gives life to gods and monsters alike. None shall tame me. Marduk steps forward. Chaos cannot reign forever. Tiamat, your fury ends here. He raises his net and storm, his voice echoing with power. With your body I shall craft the heavens and the earth. Order will rise from your destruction. And so it was. Marduk struck Tiamat down, splitting her vast form. From her ribs the sky arched high, and from her belly the earth grew firm. Her tears filled the rivers, and her breath became the winds. But chaos did not yield everywhere. In another corner of the void, primordial waters stirred. Atum emerging, serene yet commanding, I rise alone, complete within myself. From noon's waters I ascend, a beacon of life in the dark. Shu, Tefnut, breathe and flow. From you shall come balance, and the cycles of the world shall begin. Shu softly, I lift the sky, Nut away from the earth, Geb, so that life may flourish, and I, moisture, shall quench the thirst of the earth, bringing vitality to all creations, Tefnut said. In the east, another force awakened, with the cosmic egg. For millennia, the egg grew, heavy with yin and yang, light and dark, chaos and balance. Pangu, mightily resolute, with this axe I shall split the egg. Heaven and earth must part. With a thunderous strike, he cleaved the egg, separating light and dark. Each day I shall hold the heavens aloft, my strength enduring the balance of the cosmos. But his strength waned, and Pengu fell into eternal sleep. From his breath, the winds roared. From his blood, the rivers flowed. His body became mountains, forests, and fields, and his souls united the cosmos, eternal and harmonious. Far to the west, from the yawning void of chaos, Gaia the earth emerged. I am the foundation, the fertile ground. From me life shall grow, and from my union with Uranus, the sky shall come titans to shape the cosmos. Kronos, force bitter, rising in rebellion. Father, you have ruled too long, suppressing your children. Your time is over. He raised his sickle and strikes down Uranus down. From this act, a new order begins. I shall reign supreme. But Kronos too would fall, overthrown by Zeus, his son, who wielded the thunderbolt and brought balance to the heavens. Thus, across the vast expanse of chaos, creation took many forms. Through struggle and sacrifice, balance and harmony emerged. Yet, in every tale, a truth remains. From chaos comes order, and from the void, life takes its first breath. And thus the world finds creation from all across the globe in ancient mythology. All right, welcome to Ancient Pagan Myths and Religions. I'm Dr. David Santos. We're going to be beginning a study through ancient pagan myths and religions. The first of these is on creation myths across early civilization. We're going through a number of civilizations, including Egypt, Greece, Canaan, and Mesopotamia. So let's start. What you just heard was a mashup of a whole bunch of these ancient accounts of creation blended together to get a feel for across the world in the ancient world, seeing kind of what everyone thought. And if we're going to look at one specifically as we get started, let's start with just this overview. So creation myths are foundational narratives that ancient civilizations used to explain the origins of the universe, the earth, and humanity. These stories, they're a long way from being mere entertainment. They carry profound cultural, religious, and philosophical significance. They address timeless ideas and questions, things like where did we come from, what is the purpose of existence, who or what governs the cosmos. These myths serve as this bedrock to civilizations, especially when we get to some like Greek mythology, and we see these stories influencing social structure, definitely religious practices, and especially moral values. What should civilization look like? So these stories are important, but as we consider them, we also must consider things from this biblical perspective, which is everything has a single origin to it. So if we think about this from a single origin, wave of flood, then we have Tower of Babel, following the Tower of Babel. Everyone takes the original true, what we're going to call the true myth, just putting it into ancient perspectives of a story. So the true myth is remembered within culture. Everyone scatters around the world with their own language, and when they show up into their new location, their new region, they begin to tell their stories, and over time they get mixed up a bit, like the telephone game. And as they get mixed up, each one starts to gain their own uniqueness from their own region and their own culture, how they develop. But the big thing is that we'll see is they all have these extreme similarities to them as well. So these reoccurring themes, which in many creation myths is the concept of order emerging from chaos, the cosmos often being as a formless void, an abyss, or a swirling sea of chaos. The act of creation is portrayed as a divine intervention that imposes structure, harmony, and purpose. For example, we started talking about Hebrew traditions, the Genesis account, where the earth is described as formless and empty. We'll get to doing some exegesis on these passages at a later date, but just to take a quick gloss of it, this is before God speaks light into existence. So in the beginning was the world was without form and void, and God brings it into existence ex nihilo, which is from nothing. That's going to be another unique aspect to the Genesis account, is this idea of an eternally existing God bringing about the creation from nothing. And that's unique. That's special among creation mythologies compared to the true creation account. So we see similarities, for example, in the Sumerian Enuma Elish with Marduk, the champion of the gods. He battles the chaos dragon. You're going to see dragons, of course, are also a major theme in this, and we'll get to look at dragons in a later lecture. So in this case, he battles the chaos dragon Tiamat, and creates the heavens and the earth from her dismembered body, symbolizing the victory of order over primordial chaos. The role of divine beings as creators is another central motif to these accounts. These deities are often embody natural forces such as air, water, light, illustrating their intimate connection to the world. And it's this connection to the world they create. In Egyptian mythology, Atum emerges from this mound and generates the first gods through self-creation, but remember, not self-creation like we see in the Bible, but almost like an echo of what the true myth of the true creation is. So this symbolizes the cyclical nature of existence. So in the Chinese cosmology, the giant Pangu, he separates heaven and earth using his body to form the elements of the natural world. After his death, these myths reflect a deep-rooted belief in the interconnectedness of the divine and the physical realms. So whether it's conflict or sacrifice, these ideas play a pivotal role in creation myths, symbolizing transformation in the creative power of destruction. The Greek theogony tells of generational struggles between the primordial gods, the Titans and the Olympians, with Zeus establishing order through his victory. In a similar fashion, the Babylonian Enuma Elish depicts Marduk's triumph over Tiamat as essential for shaping the cosmos. So these narratives highlight the tension between chaos and creation, portraying struggle as an integral part of cosmic and societal order. Natural elements such as light, water, earth often serve as symbols in these myths, representing life, fertility, and the boundaries of human existence across cultures. Creation myths use these elements to bridge the divide between human worlds, illustrating humanity's dependence on the forces of nature and the divine order that is governing them. This is one of those quotes I've looked at a number of times, and it's from one of the more classical studies in ancient Hebrew and linguistics and doing commentary work. And Franz Delitzsch says that the angel theory, now this is regarding Genesis 6, 1 through 6, and this idea of the B'nai Elohim, which is the sons of God. They come down and they take wives for themselves. From that union, producing Nephilim. So these fallen angels have offspring. Those offspring are Nephilim. They become the men of renown. And thus, you have this interesting world in the antediluvian pre-flood world where you have these fallen angels bringing about demonic influences, rebellion against God. Now, there is a humanistic, naturalistic perspective of that as well, which is it is the union between the godly line of Seth and another ungodly line. Delitzsch, he prefers this other view. And this other view, it's simply this union between fallen angels and women producing giant offspring. Giants aren't necessarily always larger, but they are always unique in their attributes and abilities. They can be giants in terms of size as well, but we'll save that for our study into mythology around giants. I'm bringing all of this up, not really to get into Genesis 6, but simply to say, in that perspective, that pre-flood world, he has this idea that pre-flood world is the fount of all of mythology. So it's a cultural memory, thinking back to that time period where something, if you take the angel theory of Genesis 6, sub-deities are roaming the world, and they're the men of renown, the Gibborim, and making things like the Titans or the Olympians, at least in terms of how the Greeks remember these things. So thinking back to that time period is the idea there. So let's take a quick look at Hebrew creation myth. Now, remember, I'm using this phrase creation myth in terms of the biblical account, not because I don't think it's true, just because I'm calling it the true myth. And we're going to get into out of the biblical perspective alone and into some of the more traditions from a Jewish perspective and tradition. So the Hebrew creation myth, as you know, depicted in Genesis 1 and 2, presents this profound theological narrative of the universe's origin. And unlike many ancient myths that begin with the chaotic battle between gods, the Hebrew account emphasizes the singular, all-powerful creator God, bringing order. And I wrote bringing order to chaos, but he's not really even doing that. He's bringing all things into existence through the spoken word. This is a cornerstone of both Jewish and Christian theology, reflects this monotheistic worldview, very different. When we get to the Hebrew people after the Exodus and people living in Canaan, in many ways, those Hebrews are a lot like their neighbors, but there's also many ways in which they're very unlike their neighbors. And it's in some of these comparisons where you see similarities, where you can see, okay, these guys kind of look the same, but when you start looking at the differences, they are not the same and definitely not worshiping the same God. So in the Hebrew tradition, the creation story is divided into two accounts. Genesis 1 portrays the structured, orderly process over 6 days. God creates light, sky, land, celestial bodies, living creatures, humans, declares each one to be good. On the seventh day he rests and sanctifies the Sabbath. The account emphasizes God's sovereignty in the creation. Genesis 2 is a little bit of a contrast. And this leads some people to falsely believe in the documentary hypothesis, meaning some people believe that these accounts are written long after days of Moses, if there was a Moses, well after the days of Abraham, if there was an Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. And they want to question the Bible, and they do it through looking at things like this and saying, see, these are two different accounts, and they took them from two different cultures. They got together after meeting, and then they slapped them together to appease everyone. I simply look at this as the contrasts are intentional because it's two different perspectives of the same account. Genesis 2 provides us more human-centered perspective, and God forms Adam from the dust and realizes that he needs a helpmeet and creates Eve. So there's insights from ancient Jewish writings such as the Talmud and the Midrash, which expand upon the Genesis narratives. So just so you're aware, Midrash is, say, 200 AD, and then you have two Talmuds. Babylonian Talmud is about 400 AD, and the Jerusalem Talmud about 600 AD. They have their origins in the Babylonian captivity period when these things start to come about. They're essentially the oral traditions of interpreting the Bible and then how to interpret interpretations, essentially. So these expand on the Genesis narrative with these traditions. The Talmud, it's from Sanhedrin 38a, describes Adam as a being of immense spiritual stature before the fall, created last to demonstrate humanity's unique role as the pinnacle of creation. It also emphasizes humility, suggesting that humanity's formation from dust reminds them of their dependence on God. The Midrash Rabbah on Genesis adds depth to the Sabbath's sanctity, teaching that it represents the completion of creation, not merely rest, but a divine accumulation of harmony and wholeness. The Mishnah in Avat 5:1 highlights the reoccurring phrase, "and God said," which appears 10 times in Genesis 1, interpreting it as 10 divine utterances that sustain the world. This teaching emphasizes the ongoing nature of God's creative power, suggesting that creation is not a one-time event, but a continuous divine act. Now, not everything we read, especially when we're looking at mythology, even Hebrew mythology, is going to conform to the biblical perspective. So at the end of the day, we're always going to conform ourselves to what the Bible says, and we're not going to go beyond that in our true and complete understanding. But we are going to hear, this is not a theology class, this is a history class, and where we're studying ancient civilizations, cultures, societies, and their mythology. Hebrews uniquely have the true perspective as recorded in Scripture, and then they have additional writings in which they try to expand on much of that. So as we jump into the Sumerian creation myths, specifically from the Enuma Elish, I want to start out by reading a more detailed story of their creation myth, so you can get a full view. Then we'll have a quick conversation about it. In the beginning, there was chaos, the swirling sea of salt water and fresh water. From the depths, Tiamat and Apsu birthed the gods. But the young gods' clamor shattered this primordial peace. Apsu speaking, these noisy children disturb my rest. Let us destroy them and reclaim our serenity. And I says, no, Apsu, your tyranny ends here. I strikes down Apsu, and his waters fall silent. Tiamat roars in fury, created an army of serpents and monsters to avenge him. Tiamat, vengefully, I will crush the defiant gods and restore chaos to its rightful throne. The gods, fearful of Tiamat's power, call on Marduk, the young champion of Babylon. Now, we're going to see Marduk much later through these, but he's as you're going to see, he's the hero of this, even though he's definitely not the hero in the biblical accounts. Just be aware of that. The gods, fearful of Tiamat's power, call upon Marduk, the young champion of Babylon. Give me the throne of heaven, and I will confront the chaos dragon. With my strength, I will bring order to the cosmos. And armed with his net and the winds, Marduk faced Tiamat. The earth trembles as they clash. With a mighty blow, Marduk pierces Tiamat's heart. Her body collapses, and from her lifeless form, he creates the heavens and the earth. Behold, the cosmos, the stars will mark the seasons. The gods will find their place, and chaos will serve as the foundation of order. Thus, from chaos, order was born. Marduk reigned supreme, his victory a testament to the power of divine wisdom and strength. So you can see a few similarities in this account to the true biblical account. The similarities should certainly stand out to us. So, in the Sumerian creation myth, it's the Enuma Elish contains these stories. It's this foundational narrative that provides a vivid portrayal of cosmic origins through divine conflict and order building. Central to the story is the struggle between forces of chaos, and of course embodied by Tiamat in the emerging order represented by Marduk, the champion of the younger gods. So this myth reflects Sumerian society's values and cosmology, emphasizing the necessity of overcoming chaos to establish structure and purpose in the universe. So note that the story begins with the primordial chaos represented by the mingling of the waters of Apsu, and which is fresh water, and Tiamat, salt water. This union gives birth to the first generation's gods. They're noisy and unruly and disturb these older gods, and Apsu seeks to destroy his own children and is thwarted by Marduk, the god of Babylon. He rises up as a hero. He agrees to confront Tiamat, but only if he's granted supreme authority over the gods. He goes out, and you saw the story from there. He has his wind and his net, and he has this mighty mace, and Marduk battles Tiamat. He defeats her by casting a net over, filling her mouth with the wind and striking her heart with his weapon. Afterwards, he splits her body in two, forming the heavens from one half and the earth from the other. So obviously not a ex nihilo creation. And Marduk establishes order. The Enuma Elish is not merely a myth of creation. It's a story of legitimacy, divine kingship. And we're going to see these stories, or these themes of kingship and authority come out a number of times as we go through these mythologies later on. But the idea of Marduk gaining supremacy is an important one. We're going to see those kinds of ideas come out in stories like Gilgamesh and a whole bunch of others. So lots to look forward to there. And let's move on to our next section. As we move into Egypt, I want to once again highlight just the story in a little bit greater detail. In the beginning, there was only Nun, the boundless waters of chaos, darkness enveloped the depths, and silence reigned over the void. But from this formless expanse, there's a light, and this light begins to grow, and the primeval mound rose above the waters. And Atum, I am Atum, the self-created. From within myself I bring forth life. Alone I stood, yet held within me the seed of the cosmos. So here, with a breath, Atum exhaled Shu, the god of air. With a tear, he formed Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. And together, they ventured into the void, weaving this fabric of existence. And Shu whispering, I lift the sky, Nut away from the earth, Geb, so that life may flourish below. From the union of Geb and Nut came the gods and goddesses, the stars, the rivers, and the lands of Egypt. And Atum gazed upon his creation, declaring it harmonious and eternal. Ra, each dawn I rise anew, bringing light to the world and order to the cosmos. From chaos, life is reborn, and Ma'at prevails. Thus, from the waters of Nun and the will of Atum, the world was born. The cycle began, unending and unbroken, a testament to the balance of life and death, chaos and order. So we see the Egyptian creation myths is central to ancient Egyptian cosmology, is deeply symbolic and reflects the natural rhythms of the Nile River and the cyclical nature of life and death. Unlike many creation myths centered on conflict, Egyptian narratives often emphasize emergence, balance, self-generation. These myths highlight the interconnectedness of the divine. The natural world and human society. At the heart of Egyptian creation stories is the primeval mound, which rises from the chaotic waters of Nun. The creator god Atum, representing completeness and self-sufficiency, emerges from this mound. In one version of the myth, Atum creates the first deities, Shu or air and Tefnut, moisture or water, through an act of self-generation. Shu and Tefnut give birth to Geb and Nut, the earth and the sky, forming the foundational elements of the cosmos. Other versions, the sun god Ra plays a central role, emerging daily from the mound, symbolizing the cycle of rebirth and renewal. The Egyptian creation myth is not static, but reflects the diverse theological traditions of its cities and temples. In Memphis, the god Ptah is credited as the creator, shaping the world through thought and words, similar to spoken acts of creation in Genesis. So you can see occasionally you get some similarities and overlap. In other places, 8 primordial deities representing chaos prepare the way for creation. And another 9 gods descended from Atum form the core pantheon. This is probably the most common. We'll get into that in the next section or next lecture on these various ancient pantheons. So despite these variations, common themes of order, harmony, cyclical renewal, unifying Egyptian creation narratives. We get some insights from texts such as the pyramid texts, coffin texts, Book of the Dead. They offer these further elaborations on these myths. Pyramid texts describe creation as an ongoing process, emphasizing the king's role in maintaining order, or ma'at. The coffin texts introduce personal and cosmic elements reflecting the integration of creation into individual spirituality. Together, these texts reveal worldview in which creation is not a singular event, but a continuous dynamic act. When we move to the Chinese creation myths, we see the myth of Pangu and the cosmic egg. It's a vivid narrative that encapsulates themes of sacrifice, cosmic balance, and harmony, unlike many other creation myths that depict divine conflict or deliberate construction. The Chinese account emphasizes the natural unfolding of creation, rooted in the principles of yin and yang. The myth reflects Chinese philosophical traditions and their focus on balance and interconnectedness. Story begins with chaos, represented by a vast cosmic egg containing the primordial forces of yin, dark, heavy, feminine, and yang, light, airy, and masculine. And these forces remained in turmoil until they reached this equilibrium. From this balance emerged Pangu, the first being who grew within the egg for 18,000 years. With his mighty axe, Pangu broke the egg, separating the yin and formed the earth from the yang, which became the heavens. To ensure the heavens and earth remained apart, Pangu stood between them, pushing them further and apart each day. After another 18,000 years, Pangu's immense task was complete, and exhausted, he lay down and died, and his body transformed into all of the elements of the world. So the myth of Pangu is complemented by another Chinese creation narrative, such as the story of Nuwa, the goddess who molded humanity from clay. Nuwa repaired the heavens with 5 colored stones after they were torn apart by the forces of chaos. Again, we see chaos. Together, these myths reflect the Chinese emphasis on cosmic harmony, renewal, relationships between humanity and nature, and such. All right, so moving on to Greek creation myths. Again, in this case, I want to go ahead and begin with the story, then we'll move into a discussion about it. In the beginning, there was chaos, a yawning void, dark and endless. From chaos emerged Gaia, the earth, fertile and vast, and Uranus, the sky, her eternal companion. Gaia, being anguished, Uranus, You imprison our children within me, suffocating their spirit. I will not endure this injustice. Gaia fashioned a sickle and gave it to her boldest son, Kronos. As Uranus descended to embrace Gaia, Kronos struck, severing the sky from the earth. From Uranus's blood, the Furies were born, and from the sea mingled with the severed parts, Aphrodite arose, radiant and divine. Kronos, triumphant. The cosmos is mine. I shall rule supreme. But Kronos, too, grew fearful. A prophecy foretold that his children would overthrow him. Each child born, Re, he swallowed, or born to Re, he swallowed, imprisoning them within himself. This cannot stand. My children deserve freedom. She hides Zeus, her youngest, and gives Kronos a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes. In time, Zeus returned, grown in strength and cunning. He forced Kronos to regurgitate his siblings, and together they waged war against the Titans. The earth shook and the heavens roared as the Titanomachy unfolded. Brothers, sisters, this is our hour, said Zeus. Let us bring order to the cosmos. With thunderbolts, Zeus vanquished the Titans, casting them into Tartarus. Thus Zeus claimed his throne, established a new order among the gods. The chaos of old gave way to the harmony of Olympus, and the cosmos stood united under the rule of Olympians. So it is interesting that that word Tartarus is this unique word, almost like the underworld, and it's only used once in the Bible, and the one time it's used in the Bible is in 2 Peter, where Peter's describing the casting away, the locking away of these fallen, rebellious angels from Genesis 6. So that's the one time, and the majority of those guys are locked away in Tartarus. All right, got my lights working again. The Greek creation myth, as recounted in Hesiod's Theogony, is a story of cosmic emergence, divine conflict, and the establishment of order. It begins with chaos, the primordial void, which all things arise, and unfolds as this successive generations of gods struggling for dominance, accumulating in the reign of Zeus, the king of the Olympian gods. This narrative encapsulates Greek ideas about the origins of the cosmos, the nature of power, and the tension between chaos and order. And according to the myth, chaos gives birth to Gaia, or Earth, Tartarus, the abyss, Eros, desire, and other primordial deities. Gaia, in turn, produces Uranus, the sky, with whom she gives birth to the Titans, Cyclopses, and other beings. Uranus, fearing his offspring, imprisons them within Gaia, causing her great distress. In response, Gaia conspires with her son Kronos, who overthrows Uranus by castrating him with a sickle, and from Uranus' blood and severed parts, new beings are born, including the Furies and Aphrodite. Kronos is now the ruler of the cosmos. He fears this prophecy that his own children will overthrow him. To prevent this, he swallows each child born to him and Re, his wife. However, she deceives Kronos, hiding their youngest son Zeus, giving Kronos stone wrapped in swaddling clothes instead. So you'd think he could tell the difference, but I guess he couldn't tell the difference. So Zeus grows up and returns to challenge his father and forces him to regenerate. forced them to regurgitate his siblings together. Zeus and his allies overthrow the Titans, and then this great cosmic battle known as the Titanomachy with the Titans defeated. Zeus establishes this new order, assigning roles to the gods and creating harmony and chaos. So, interesting accounts. And when we look at this, we should especially take note of what these gods are like. They're very anthropomorphic. They're very much like humans. Hesiod's theogony emphasizes this anthropomorphic nature of the gods, who embody both human virtues and flaws, making them relatable yet formal figures in Greek culture. I want to end with a closer look at the biblical creation account. And we said it's a unique narrative. The story in Genesis is this remarkable in its simplicity, but it's all about order, it's transcendence. It begins with a sovereign personal God creating the universe out of nothing, ex nihilo, declaring his creation good at every step. You can see that as a strong difference between these other creation accounts. The idea that what God has created is good, what those gods created was not necessarily. Over 6 days, God brings order to chaos. Like I said earlier, I'm not sure we really want to put it that way, but for the sake of our broad study, we'll deal with it. He sanctifies the Sabbath on the 7th day. It's a day of worship. It's a day of rest. But it's really an important idea or concept that was very foreign to the rest of the ancient world. This idea of a Sabbath and rest, and certainly finding rest in their gods, which just didn't take place. And here we can see the people of the God of the Bible having the true account of creation and the true account of who God is, makes them a peculiar people in a land in which they're foreigners. And with that, I want to just consider who the one true God is. And I want to do that through this reading. It's kind of similar to what we've been doing through mashing up the various different pagan accounts. In this case, blending of the accounts of Genesis in the book of John, which I feel is very appropriate to give us this true understanding of the biblical account of God creating the heavens and the earth. The title is In the Beginning, the Word. A serene cosmic landscape unfolds. The heavens shimmer with stars, and the earth is radiant with new life. The voices of Genesis and John intertwine, proclaiming the divine act of creation. The stage is illuminated with soft celestial light. Let there be light. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and the darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Gentle wind blows, symbolizing the Spirit's presence. And this is when we hear God speak. The title of this narrative, Let There Be Light. Light floods the universe, chasing away the shadows, and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he divided the light from the darkness. He called the light day and the darkness night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. Then God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And it was so. God made the expanse and called it heaven. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. By his word the heavens were made, and the host of them by the breath of his mouth. In him all things hold together, for he is before all things, the Alpha Omega, the beginning and the end. It is very good. The heavens and the earth stand complete, filled with life and harmony. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was life, and through him all creation sings his glory. For he is the light of the world, the eternal Creator, and the Redeemer of all things. Praise God.